Today, I want to be exploring what America's $27 trillion plan for Bitcoin actually means, because I've seen three pieces of conflicting information this week from the top dogs in America. The first obviously has to do with Donald Trump. He tweeted this out congratulating all Bitcoiners, okay? And again, we all know that Donald Trump is trying to create a Bitcoin strategic reserve in the country. So the president, he's pro-Bitcoin. But at the same time, it looks as if the current government is trying to dump Bitcoin. We can see that all week, people have been tweeting about the fact that 10,000 Bitcoin from the US government wallet has been on the move, and absolutely everybody has been looking at all of the on-chain data, and they're wondering, why is the US government sending Bitcoin to Coinbase, what, a month before we're supposed to create a strategic Bitcoin reserve? Those two pieces of information were interesting. But then I saw this interview drop with the current Federal Reserve Chairman, Jerome Powell, being asked about Bitcoin. And again, all of this just continues to get even more interesting. I'm going to shut up for a moment and I'm just going to play the clip because I think this is a fascinating one.
We're far from that point. Right. Before I forget, one of the reasons I wanted to actually ask you about Bitcoin is, to some degree, people think that is a symbol of people's faith or lack of faith in either the U.S. dollar or in the Federal Reserve itself, in terms of the system. What do you think of that idea?
I don't think that's how people think about it. I mean, it's so, people use Bitcoin as a speculative asset, right? It's like gold. It's just like gold, only it's virtual, it's digital. People are not using it as a form of payment or as a store of value. It's highly volatile. It's not a competitor for the dollar. It's really a competitor for gold. That's really how I think of it.
When you think about,
so was there a little bit of gaslighting there from everybody's favorite, Jerome Powell? I mean, he didn't sound very positive or very bullish on Bitcoin at all, really. He tried to tell you straight up, oh no, nobody thinks about Bitcoin as a US dollar replacement. No, it's just replacing gold. It's just replacing this $19 trillion market. Again, that's pretty bullish, even when you consider how he just wasn't interested in Bitcoin in that clip. He didn't really talk about it in a positive tone. He wasn't optimistic about it. He was very, no, it's very speculative. It's very volatile. It's just replacing gold. Even that comment alone, or the signal from what he says, is suggesting we're looking at a $500,000, $700,000 Bitcoin price if Bitcoin replaces gold and hits an $18 trillion market cap. But I was more interested in the timing of this interview from Jerome Powell and the timing of these comments. This interview literally happened 2 days ago. This happened at the New York Times Deal Book Summit. And in the same week, we're seeing some really interesting things when we take a look at over on the Bitcoin Treasuries website. We can actually see when we scroll down here, the US government used to own 213,000 Bitcoin. But what do you guys notice? That's a little bit different here on the right-hand side of this chart. The US government only now holds 198,000 Bitcoin. So again, is the US government right now selling Bitcoin? Well, this is kind of something I want to talk a little bit more about today, because absolutely everybody was talking about that this week on Twitter. Just in, US government moves 10,000 Bitcoin to Coinbase. That is $1 billion worth of Bitcoin. It's not a small amount of Bitcoin. And again, I do think it's interesting the timing that this happens. Okay, we can also see that other governments and other G7 governments with multi-trillion-dollar GDPs have already learned the lesson of what happens when you sell Bitcoin. Let's not forget what Germany did when Bitcoin was at like $55,000 a coin. They did this. They stupidly lost billions, literally billions, selling 50,000 Bitcoin. They were the fourth largest or the third largest Bitcoin holder at the time. And we can see that they're now facing a $2 billion loss. And that is because since Germany sold their Bitcoin, I'm going to show you guys what Bitcoin has done in the past 2 months, because it's hilarious. We were actually going live at the time saying these kind of events kind of mark local bottoms. Typically, when a government market dumps something like 50,000 Bitcoin aggressively, these kind of events typically will mark bottoms. When everybody is max bearish, at the time, everybody was saying, oh, you know, Bitcoin's going back to 20K, 30K. It was right there on the chart. I mean, you guys can see it as clear as day. Germany marked the bottom. And since Germany sold, I love this chart. Look what the chart has done since Germany sold. It is literally up. Let's measure this. 100%. 100%. Germany would have doubled their money if they held on to their Bitcoin. Literally doubled in 2 months. Okay, so again, if the US were stupid enough to sell their Bitcoin, I expect that we're going to be making videos about them, maybe in 2 months' time, highlighting how stupid that decision was to sell their Bitcoin. Because I think it's pretty clear, selling your Bitcoin is a terrible, terrible, terrible idea. We can see that Jason Lowry, the author of Soft War, actually weighed in on these tweets that were circulating all week, all over Twitter, about the US moving those 10,000 Bitcoin to Coinbase. Again, just think about it for a minute. Why would the US government move 10,000 Bitcoin to Coinbase if they weren't selling? Coinbase is the biggest exchange. They're the one that a lot of the ETFs use, okay? It looks as if the US government wants to sell their Bitcoin, but we can see not everybody thinks that's a good idea. We can see here, Jason Lowry actually says that if the US were to sell their Bitcoin, this would be a huge strategic mistake. There is no price where it makes sense for the US to sell any Bitcoin. Remember this post when they inevitably try to justify a new version of Executive Order 6102 to reclaim the Bitcoin they sold off due to their ignorance about the true significance of this technology. Jason really does not mince his words here. And we can see here, so this is another reason why I want to show you the next article I'm going to show you. On December 2nd, look who chimed in on this situation, Brian Armstrong. Of course, he's the CEO of Coinbase. So he would know if they did receive a shipment of 10,000 Bitcoin. And guess what he says? He says, I agree. The US government should not sell their Bitcoin, in my opinion. That's what he said. Kind of sounds like the thing you would say if you did just facilitate a 10,000 Bitcoin sell for the US government. You couldn't say, yeah, that was a terrible idea, but maybe you could say something like this. I agree. They should never sell their Bitcoin, in my opinion. And that is just the opinion of Brian Armstrong, CEO of the largest exchange around the world. But let's not forget, this is not the first time that the US government has made a strategic blunder to sell their Bitcoin. Okay, in 2015, they sold over 44,000 Bitcoin. This is a $3 billion mistake. Even higher now, probably closer to a $4 billion mistake. Can't believe they sold the Bitcoins for $400 each. Just think about that. Nearly 9 years ago in November. So it's kind of poetic, the timing here. Very interesting timing. And I'm interested that this is happening at the same time that we're seeing all of this talk about strategic Bitcoin reserves. We've got Jerome Powell being questioned about Bitcoin in a 30-minute interview with Andrew Ross Sorkin. All of a sudden, you can't really escape the Bitcoin conversation. And that's because of charts like these. Bitcoin is taking over the world. This chart is of public corporations. Public corporations right now are squatting on more than 500,000 Bitcoin, largely due to MicroStrategy's 402,000 Bitcoin. But the other public companies have a lot of Bitcoin and they're aggressively accumulating Bitcoin at a rate that I think is unprecedented. You're going to find out more about that in a video in the not too distant future. You know what? You're going to find out more about that in a video tomorrow. Got 2 live streams planned again for you guys tomorrow. We've done 2 today. We're going to do another 2 tomorrow and 2 on Sunday. So I hope you're ready because a lot has happened this week. Genuinely do believe the past 2 weeks since Trump was elected, these have been some of the most bullish weeks I've ever seen. Okay, it's massive. Dingo Booty makes a great point. Love the name, by the way. Makes a great point in the chat. Custodial move. Could be. Maybe the US government just wants to hold 10,000 Bitcoin at Coinbase custody. It's also a potential argument I was going to bring up at the end of today's video when I talk about all sorts of sides and angles to this story. But that's one of them. The US government might maybe be using multi-signature right now. I mean, that's wishful thinking, but maybe they're holding their own keys. I don't know where they're holding those 213,000 Bitcoin, but maybe they want to diversify a little bit and put 10,000 Bitcoin in Coinbase custody. It's a possibility. We don't know exactly what's going on with this story just yet. All we do know is that it doesn't seem to be affecting the price too much in the short term, because as you can see, things are looking pretty bullish. And I'm actually seeing some really interesting things. Have a look at how aggressively Bitcoin is getting bought up here. Like, again, these corrections here are not small corrections. Yesterday, I'm going to show you something that happened yesterday because it was a record-breaking day. Bitcoin saw its biggest dump in 5 minutes ever. So we dumped from 100K. No, that's not the dump. Where's the dump? I'm trying to find the dump that we saw. This one yesterday. Bitcoin dumped from 99,000 to 91,000. Is that a 7% candle? Bitcoin saw this massive crash yesterday in literally a matter of minutes. 7.5% in minutes. This is like a 15-minute candle. No, this is a 5-minute candle. So Bitcoin crashed by $7,000 in 5 minutes, which is pretty wild to think about. That would have to represent over $100 billion loss. Bitcoin's a $2 trillion market cap asset right now. But again, the reason why I show you that, well, there's a number of reasons, because I want to show you how quickly Bitcoin's price snapped back to 100K today. We've had two pretty flash crashes kind of thing around this 100K level. Look at how quickly they got bought up. All I'm going to say is that's interesting. Yes, the price of Bitcoin doesn't go up in a straight line. I understand the argument. 30% pullbacks are very customary in a bull run. I'm not saying we're not going to see a 30% pullback right now. I'm definitely not saying that. I don't know what's going to happen. And as I said in a live stream today, I mean, I'm comfortable for the price of Bitcoin to be $10,000 tomorrow or $10 million tomorrow. Okay, I'm prepared for both scenarios. I think everybody should be as well. Something that everybody should also be prepared to see is a chart like the one I'm bringing up right now. I apologize if I'm a little bit all over the place because I couldn't find this chart, but here's the chart. I'm just trying to show you guys what happened in that 2017 Bitcoin bull market. Yes, Bitcoin rallied from $1,000 to $20,000 in 9 months. Sounds like a pretty easy trade. Just buy Bitcoin, close your eyes, right? Just goes up and to the right. But have a look at the volatility you saw along the way. We saw 6 corrections, bigger than 30% in that 2017 bull run. Massive. Okay, so again, please be prepared for volatility. Volatility is coming. But I do think on the long enough time frame, we are going to continue to see any dips bought. Who knows how deep those dips will go? I don't know. But what I am telling you is I'm surprised at how quickly Bitcoin bounced back from $92,000 to $101,000 today, literally today. That's obviously because the world looks to be buying Bitcoin right now. Everybody's waking up to the fact that they need Bitcoin. And again, I don't blame you. I mean, Bitcoin is the superior asset. There is no ways around that. There's no arguing that. Institutions are buying Bitcoin. Nation states are buying Bitcoin. Absolutely everybody is buying Bitcoin. If you guys are new to Bitcoin and you're looking for an application where you can buy Bitcoin seamlessly with very low fees and, just get great spreads in the Bitcoin space and have a great user experience, I always like to tell you guys about what Rhino Bitcoin is doing. As you guys can see, they've got a really slick user interface. I think it's a really great Bitcoin wallet to be used by new people. Okay, buying Bitcoin is made easy with Rhino Bitcoin. And everything you need to know about Rhino will be linked down below. And you can even get yourself $10 of free Bitcoin if you sign up with Rhino, if you use a promo code Bitcoin News. Okay, so highly recommend you check out Rhino and use that promo code, capital B for Bitcoin, capital N for News, Bitcoin News, and you'll be able to get $10 of free Bitcoin. I mean, Christmas is coming. We thought we would be giving and team up with Rhino to give you guys some free Bitcoin to download their app and start buying Bitcoin today. Now, let's talk a little bit more because we have some comments about the US government. I have one more thing I want to show you guys here in a moment. Something else I want to show you is just, this is, it's a hell of a chart. US GDP, $27 trillion right now. It's massive. The US is the biggest economy in the world. That's why we're paying such close attention to three little things happening in America in the same week. Okay? In and of themselves, a lot of these comments and headlines wouldn't mean a lot, but I'm really interested in the timing of a lot of these things. Why now? Why now are we seeing the US move Bitcoin to Coinbase? I don't know, but I think we need to be paying attention. That's something we do really need to be paying close attention to because everything's happening. MicroStrategy's buying more Bitcoin. As we can see in the comments, my favorite Bitcoiner in the live chats, Rock VTM, says Bitcoin has reached legitimacy. Now institutions and countries need to place their bets. No excuses left. Are you in or are you out? And this is what we're beginning to see. Like, I'm actually shocked at the amount of nation state FOMO we've seen. Again, the nation state FOMO is something that we've been saying is going to happen for a long time. And when it happens, it's going to happen exponentially and really quickly. And I've been saying this for years. And even I've been surprised at just how rapidly it has happened over the past 2 weeks. I mean, we've seen states in the US announce Bitcoin strategic reserves. We've seen, countries, we've seen cities in Canada, in Vancouver, announcing strategic Bitcoin reserves. We've seen the 21st largest country, Poland, talking about strategic Bitcoin reserves. We've seen, who else have we seen? We've seen all sorts of news this week, and it's been crazy. We've seen Putin come out yesterday. That's what I was trying to remember. Putin came out and he said in an interview very nonchalantly, you can't ban Bitcoin. You know what I mean? Technology is going to continue evolving. And I think right now we're kind of at the stage where things are evolving. I would love to say that we're at the stage where we're not going to see 30% dips anymore on the way up. Those days are over. I'm less certain that we're going to see 80% dips and 70% dips. Something I was saying on a live stream earlier today was that I don't think we're going to see these extended 2-year bear markets where the price only goes down for 2 years. Think of 2015, 2016, 2018, 2019, and 2022, beginning of 2023. I don't think we're going to see such long bear markets. That's something I feel strongly about, just because the buyer who's buying the dip these days is aggressively buying the dip. But I still wouldn't be surprised if we see, deep pullbacks, 30% pullbacks, 50% pullbacks. That still wouldn't surprise me. But I think it's an interesting comment. Investors who hired Peter Schiff as their financial expert are standing with stones and sticks in their hands outside his house. And that is because Peter Schiff has been wrecked. He told you guys, don't buy Bitcoin when it was $1. Told you guys don't buy it at $10, $100, $1,000, $10,000. Peter Schiff's the person who's never been more wrong on Bitcoin. Now, we got a little bit bullish today. We're talking about people who've been wrong on Bitcoin. Wouldn't mind maybe talking about a couple of gentlemen who I think are right on Bitcoin. And a couple of gentlemen who are potentially the most bullish Bitcoiners that I've ever had the pleasure to chat to. And that is, of course, Peter Dunworth and British Hodl. As you can see on screen, recently had the pleasure of interviewing both of those bulltards. All three of us bulltards on the same show. It was bullish. So if you missed that, I'd highly recommend you check out that interview with me, British, and Peter. Right now, we're trying to organize and schedule a monthly chat or a monthly roundtable. So if you want that to happen, message us and we'll try to make it happen. And with all that said, guys, 1,657 of you guys here on Twitter and YouTube. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's late on a Friday night. I understand that, but I hope you enjoy the beginning of your week